Welcome to episode 10 of the vlog. Some of you might be wondering what's up with the hiatus. I think I released the last vlog back in October and now we're in December. If you're one of the OG subscribers of the channel and have seen episode 1, you'll know that I'm not a full-time pro, but instead an enthusiast who puts in some serious study and hours. That said, the last few weeks have been a little hectic, and poker was one of those things that had to be put on pause. But now we're looking to get back into the swing of things, so hopefully we'll have a little bit more consistency with the channel. This episode will probably contain one of my last sessions of the year in the LA casinos. But the good news is that we have some additional content coming up in Vegas and possibly Dallas. We've just sat down at the 5-10 game at Commerce, and our immediate first hand is pocket 8s in the cutoff. When the player to my direct right raises to 40, I decide to call and the button ends up coming along, so we have a 3-way pot brewing. There's a 6-high flop, and the hijack continues here for a pot-sized bet of 120. Kinda a tough situation right off the bat. We're ahead of ace-highs, suited broadways, and pocket 7s. The opponent is an unknown, and given that there's still a person to act behind, we decide to play this straightforward and fold, looking for a better spot later on. When opportunities arise to pick up small pots uncontested, you take them, especially when your opponents are playing a fit or fold strategy. These small pots over time have an impact in gauging whether someone is a winning poker player or not. In this next hand, the cutoff poster missed blinds. We have a suited queen on the button, and once the action folds to him and he elects to check, this is a pretty ripe opportunity to pick up dead money. I raise to 50 here, and only the small blind decides to call. The flop is 10-10-4 with 2 spades, and when it's checked to me, I put in a continuation for $55, and the small blind accidentally flips over his hand as he goes to muck, and accidentally exposes pocket 9s. Yup, you heard me right when I said pocket 9s. Leave a note in the comments below about hand number 2 and what you think about this fold by our opponent. I have pretty mixed feelings about this one, but nevertheless it encouraged me to get up and put my name on the table change list. About a half hour passes, and within that period of time I end up whipping some mid-sized pots, flush draws, and hero calling in the wrong spots. Nothing too egregious, but nevertheless frustrating as it tells the story of the session. In this next hand, I look down at ace-king of hearts when the under-the-gun player raises to 30, playing roughly 500 behind. I raise it here to 110, and action folds around back to the original raiser, who raises all in for 535 total. This specific opponent had been short-stacking the entire time he's been here, and we had the perfect hand to call it off with. The opponent was a young-looking guy, perhaps in his late 20s, and generally looked uncomfortable with the game. Take what you will from that. These are just some of the notes I had written down describing the demeanor and general aura I experienced at the table. I feel like the opponent in this case could be shoving here with pairs, ace-king or ace-queen, so there's not much left to do but to call. When we do call the shove, the opponent gives a sheepish look and says gamble gamble, which is always absolutely good for the general game. But it's unfortunate in this specific instance when I whiff, when this board runs out 10 high and the opponent shows pocket 5s. At this point in the night, I'm in roughly for 3k, and although it may seem like a large amount, in these larger stakes, it's very easy to be in the game for this much, especially if the cards don't cooperate. It's roughly the equivalent of just 2 buy-ins. Saying that this session is not going as well as expected would be an understatement. It seems like my big hands are not getting much traction, and generally making second best hands by the river. This next hand is pretty much an example of no traction. I find ace-queen on the button, and with 4 limpers to me, I raise to 75 and there are 0 callers. This is the type of table where if I made it 50, the hand would have easily gone 5 ways, and by making it 75, get 0 callers. Definitely a tricky situation to suss out. If you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to like the video, comment below, and let me know what you guys think of the video so far, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Thanks to you guys as always for helping build this channel and this community. Things seldomly phase me at the table, though on this day I kept thinking about how losing the flip against the 5s was a pivotal moment. Now I wouldn't go as far as saying the run grid streak would come to an end, as it's always more of an ebb and flow. But the premium hands were not getting much action, and when they would, I would end up missing the board entirely. I'm not saying that this is just bad luck, as there was definitely a portion of bad play going on here as well. And in retrospect, when you have that combination of bad luck and bad play, things don't usually end well. In this hand, the under-the-gun player opens for 30 and the cutoff calls. We look down at ace-queen offsuit, and in this particular situation I decide to flat because that's what the book says. Just kidding, there isn't a book. But because I'm a wizard at camera angles, I actually had to go back and rewind and relook at the cards again just to make doubly sure. Queen of hearts and the ace of spades. There. Anyhow, the flop is Jack 8-7 with 2 hearts, and when action checks to me, I have a decision whether to bet or check back. Given the board texture and these specific components, I like to check back here. When the turn brings another Jack and the initial raiser leads out for 75, this smells like a smaller pocket pair with a probing bet, but when the cutoff calls, there's very little to do but fold. The river is a 3 of diamonds, which is effectively a brick, and the early position player bets 100 and a cutoff folds. Based off this action, I think a turn raise would have definitely worked in this situation. Sometimes it's just difficult to pull the trigger when there's 3 people in the hand. Time for the worst play of the day. We find King Jack on the button, and after early position open to 25, late position player calls, and I call on the button with one of the blinds as well. 4 players throw a flop of King 9-7, Skittles, and action checks around. The turn is the 8 of clubs, and now the early position player bets $55 and both the late position and I call. The 3 of clubs on the river brings the backdoor flush, and when the early position player bets 125, the late position player calls. I feel like I have pretty good card removal here with the king of clubs, so I decide to raise to 500. At the time I thought this would work at some frequency, but not today, as the early position folds, but the late position player looks at his cards again and says, I have flush, I call, with Jack Deuce of clubs. If I worked at a slaughterhouse, I would instantly get a promotion after this hand as I butchered this hand to perfection. Forget the pre-flop, flop, and turn action. The river action itself takes the cake. If we arrive here on the river in this manner and want to go kamikaze on the opponents, I think this would require one to fully unload the clip. And even if I did go all in, I'm not so sure that this particular opponent folds Jack high flush here. Immediately after that hand, we pick up pocket jacks in a cutoff and open to 45. We end up getting a caller in the big blind and it's heads up to a flop of 6-6-9, where I continue for 100 and the opponent quickly folds. No one's getting out of line at the table except for me, which is definitely not a good sign here. After some late day trading, we find ourselves with ace-jack of clubs and the hijack. The low jack opens to 45 after 1 limp, and I raise to 115 on the hijack. Only the low jack calls. The flop comes ace-9-4 with 2 spades, and our opponent plays out of flow here and bets 335, an overbet on the flop. I think we can exploitatively fold here given the circumstances and this specific player type. In the end, the silver lining is that we actually save ourselves a trip to the cage to cash out. Was this the intended outcome? Of course not, but sometimes the hero doesn't get to win at the end. We were in the game for a total of $4,300 and out for $4, for a total loss of $42.96 over 7-ish hours. Like I said, not an ideal situation, but that's okay. The cool thing about cash games is that you can always dust yourself off and try again. In the next episode, we'll be exploring poker in Las Vegas, which always brings a smile to my face. There's a reason they call Vegas the Disneyland for adults. For more up-to-date posts and any questions pertaining to this channel, poker, or just to say hi, you can follow me on Instagram at OnLifeTilt. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thanks again for joining me on another poker vlog. If you made it this far, please do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any future content. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and see you next time.